Are we remembering to feel the front of our shins this morning? Good morning, everybody. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. In this simulation of ours, which we are living in, which we die every 5 minutes, but the timer is reset with every breath that we take. We here on Palgoan invite you to hold this controller properly, this breathing controller of yours properly, by pretending that there is a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there. And you're trying to not put it out. And you're not thinking about exhaling necessarily. You're not thinking about inhaling necessarily. But simply that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And you might think about this candle flickering in front of your lips. And you might think about the candle flickering in front of my lips. And here on Palgoan, we invite you to possibly pretend that there's a candle in front of everybody's lips that they're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there. Like a birthday candle. It's just flickering there. And we invite you to remember that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. To feel so good from the inside out, simply moving our self-awareness around and being so rewarded for it in our own body. Good morning as we stretch our self-awareness every weekday morning here on Palgoan. My name is Herbie. This is Palgoan. It is 5:37 a.m. on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. Can you believe that we are already here on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021? Where has the time gone? Where are you right now? Are you on a mountaintop? Are you in the valleys? Are you in a tree? Are you underground? Are you digging right now for gold? Are you chilling right now on a porcelain throne? Where art thou? How have you been lately? How are you feeling? Have you been able to check with your mental health lately? Do you feel that you can overcome from the inside out, or do you feel overwhelmed from the outside in? How has our connection with the candle in front of our lips been? Have we been able to feel that there was a candle in front of our lips lately that's just flickering there? And how has our body felt when we detect and observe our sense of self to not put this candle out? We're not thinking about exhaling or inhaling necessarily, but simply trying to not put this candle out. And how does that feel for you? Lately. Today is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. No matter whether you are hanging out here with us right now or if you are in a VOD, we thank you for joining us on this Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. It is a Wednesday here on Palgoan. That means it is a Warfare Wednesday as of right now on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. Where we will be discussing the relationship between us and the world. I'm Palgoan, always discussing your relationship with you and yourself to breathe so well from the inside out. By remembering that there is a candle and that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Today on Warfare Wednesday, we will be talking about vax versus no vax. What's going on in the world? Is it truly a war between vax and no vax? Is that truly the fight that is actually happening right now? Or is it a misnomer? Is that misnamed? Is there possibly a different, deeper fight happening? Possibly like a deeper meaning to the body. Like remembering that the tip of the tongue has a place that it wants to be, and how does that feel for us? Mysteries Unlocked will be right back here on Palgo One. Talk about what is the real war going on. Only if you remember that the tip of your tongue wants to be. Like that picture. Are we remembering to hold this breathing controller properly with us today? And of course, you may return to however you were breathing previously, should you feel that you are more comfortable doing the other one. But we invite you to pretend that there is a candle in front of your lips that you are trying to not put out. We're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling necessarily, but simply that there is a candle flickering in front of our lips that we are trying to not put out. No matter what we are doing out there, whether we are getting ready for the day, whether we are opening up shop, whether we are swimming deep underneath the water with sharks, no matter what we are doing this morning, we invite you to hold this breathing controller properly, to orient yourself properly to this world in which we are dying every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath that we take. We invite you to hold that controller properly so well by no matter what we are doing, as long as we are planning to breathe, we are pretending that there's a candle in front of our lips, flickering there like your birthday or something. Feeling all those muscles be stimulated on the front of that face as you perceive them to be. As we open up the front and top of our chest by pretending that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. And we are leaving those swallowing muscles alone and observing our sense of self as we may notice either an opening or possibly a restricting of the chest. or perhaps an opening of the back of the neck, of the napes, or perhaps a restricted feeling. As always, it's okay to just simply observe. Observation is enough. Observation is enough, and the body will do the rest. Using some body magic tricks to talk about some perhaps not so comfortable topics is our specialty here on Pagawan today. It is a Warfare Wednesday. It is 5:45 a.m. What art thou doing out there? Are we ready to notice this war out there that is happening out there and in here? A war for what, Herbie? A war for your soul. A war for your soul. What do you mean, a war for your soul? Well, as we are talking about here on Warfare Wednesday, the ability to simply observe is enough. Vax or no vax? On Warfare Wednesdays here on Pagawan, we discuss our relationship with us and the world as it is constantly at war with you, for your soul, for your individuality. Are we not slaves to capitalism? Or is there another deeper war going on? Is there a war that we are noticing? Have we noticed a difference in our lives very dramatically within the last 20 years or so? Has there been a large paradigm shift? What is this war happening around us? Is it a war thrusting Republican versus Democrat? Possibly. Is it a war thrusting the left versus the right? Possibly. Whatever we are doing out there, whether you're cooking eggs, whether you are massaging your feet, whether you are still chilling in bed because that feels really great sometimes, just being under the blanket, or whether you are tapping away at the computer. What is the war out there? Is it Republican versus Democrat that we've been noticing this shift in? Is it straights versus the gays? As we are pretending that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out, always, right? No matter what. Straight, gay, lesbian, proud, ashamed, tall, short, fat, skinny, old, young, alive, dead. We're all pretending that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out, right? As we remember that the design of our body dictates that the tip of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, and we notice how far forward of the body that feels, and we might notice that we might be able to do anything with that tongue, but we might notice that how it feels when we do align it with this idea, or we do align it with this worldview. We can compare how our body feels to feel how forward of the body it feels to feel the tip of the tongue wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. That would be so close to that candle that we're talking about, right? And so and in the same way we find peace in our own bodies, might we find peace in the world? Might we align closer to the truth of what humans are to this entire world thing? Might we find more peace in seeing a worldview closer to the truth of what is actually happening, similar to when we view our bodies closer to the truth of what is actually supposed to be happening? What is the relationship of being to being? What is the relationship to nation to nation? What is the relationship between world to human? Should we get closer to the truth, might we find ease? Might we find more freedom? Might we find more happiness? Might we find more love? Might we find world peace through individual inner strength? Might we just identify the actual war that is actually happening? Might the observation be enough for human bodies to commit to the solution itself already? Might we just have a better idea of the actual war happening? You see a lot of good and evil in the media. Most stories in our lives that we resonate with tend to have gigantic themes that seem to be worldwide. Otherwise, why would they be worldwide renowned if they were not renowned and accepted unilaterally or just across the globe by confirmed by billions of people, millions of people? Stories of good and evil that have stood the test of time. Why? Why? Well, should those stories be closer to something true? Might they resonate stronger? Might they allow us more freedom when we think about those stories? Might they allow us more ease when thinking about these stories as they reflect so strongly in the world itself? What is the war actually going on in the world? If we find a worldview that more closely matches the actual war happening, might the observation, as usual, just be enough? Similar to the way the observation of the tip of the tongue wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, or simply the observation of a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out, might be enough to excite the proper muscles that solve our breathing problems. Might we solve our problems in the world simply by observing the proper problem? The proper design, the proper worldview, and might everything else shift into place as it need be, without much resistance, but actually full of freedom and grace, ease and happiness and love. The same way we might feel when we grow our relationship with remembering the function, shape, and size of our tongue. To get closer to this world peace thing, we might invite you to remember and recall the design of our tongue and how it might relate to our ability to breathe properly and to self-regulate from the inside out, which might be what all of these religions are trying to describe to begin with. We'd like to remind you the shape, size, and function of your tongue here on Padawan, and allow it to facilitate in the regulation of your life, mood, physicality from the inside out, by remembering that the tips of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. That is the back of the bottom front incisors. For you gurus out there. And we might notice how far forward of our body that feels. Forward of what, Herbie? Exactly. What exactly is the center of our existence? Right? How far or how small do we assume our existence to be in our own body? We might get a closer understanding by getting a strong relationship with the shape, size, and function of our own tongue, as it is one of our most peculiar muscles, acting as the lid of our breathing apparatus. We might remind you that the back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down, up and down. Again, that is the back 1/3 of your tongue, closer to your swallowing muscles, in which you should be leaving alone. The back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down. And you might notice how far forward of the body that feels, as we are remembering always that there's a candle there in front of your lips just flickering. And you're trying to not put that candle out. You might look at the camera right now, or you might look at the screen right now and just notice that there's a candle in front of my lips that I'm trying to not put out, you know? And I'm thinking the same for you too, don't worry about it. And I know that you're trying to not put it out. Duh. Why would you? What is this war? As we reach the height of the show. What is this war for you Should we get closer to a design? What is this war for you? Is it vax or no vax? Or is it coercion versus no coercion? Are we really discussing who wants people to die? Or are we really discussing who wants people to be peer pressured? Are we really discussing who here wants people to survive a disease? Are we really discussing people who want people to die of diseases versus people who do not want people to die of diseases? Or are we actually seeing a war of people who want to make a division between being coerced and being convinced? Is there perhaps a war in order to pressure due to an inside pressure? Are we not able to regulate from the inside out, to moderate to actually feel something better than your morning would feel without? There's an intense feeling right now pervading on the internet, pervading in society as it bends to the internet, as we become a smaller and smaller village as social media dictates. Has there been a strong feeling pervading of division? There's so much complication of even going to visit people and going to social gatherings where you have people wearing masks. And we are all loving people, loving, caring people, and so we see the masks, and yet we've now been so thoroughly confused by whether the masks are, or the masks along with the vax is a compassionate thing. We now see vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers, where many of the anti-vaxxers had vaccines done on them throughout their entire lives, and yet we are being created as factions of vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers, when most of the anti-vaxxers, quote unquote, have vaccines themselves, and so are by definition not anti-vaccine. We associate the vaccine with being compassionate and caring, with and good. We associate the vaccine with being caring and good, but shut down and criticize any possible questioning that the vaccine may not be an ultimate good, as if it was a gift from God and not something manufactured by human beings. Might we have flaws in our own body? Might we have ever had a misstep? Might we ever have forgotten that there was a candle in front of our lips that we were trying to not put out? And so we allow our emotions to rile us up and allow us to get even caught in the wave of being allowed to be called vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers, when many of the anti-vaxxers have had vaccines for themselves in the past. Is it not just anti-coercion versus coercion? They tell you my body, my choice. Until it comes to the vaccine. As the vaccine is seen as the ultimate good, relying on the premise that it is infallible and an ultimate good. But what happens when it begins to bleed, and what happens when it begins to scar people? As it has. It feels a lot involuntarily. It feels very ape rapey. For a society that is so hell-bent on discussing the ideas of consent, it seems that we need a practice in it for ourselves. It seems society and the world needs a practice in consent right now for ourselves. And we might get there by reminding ourselves that there is a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. In order to satiate our bodies, our crazy, evil bodies that have just this desire to control other beings because it can't feel good from the inside out. In order to satiate that being, we pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. In order to stop that hand from doing what you know it doesn't want to do, these idle hands, we pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. In order to stop these righteous hands when someone comes at you sideways, for the greater good, for yourself and for your mama, for everyone around you, we pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. And we might notice how far forward of the body that feels when you remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, no matter what you were saying, no matter where you were breathing. We'll be right back after this short break to get to the last half of the show, where we'll discuss more of this war going on. What is the war going on? Here on Pago One, but only if you remember that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Thank you. To place a candle in our mind's eye, in our perception? Are we remembering to place a candle floating in front of our lips that we are trying to not put out, as we remember that the tip of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Good morning, everyone. I hope you have been able to leave your swallowing muscles alone. It is 6:05 a.m. Remember to leave those swallowing muscles alone. We should never be allowing ourselves to get caught up in trying to use those swallow muscles consciously. It's just not our dig, you know? It's just not our thing. You know? It just feels better. We leave our swallowing muscles alone. Do what you will, but I recommend leaving your swallowing muscles alone, as our friend Jesse Lee would say. It is 6:05 a.m. on this Wednesday, November 10, 2021. It is a Wednesday. My name is Herbie. This is Pow Go On. And you know, every Wednesday on Pow Go On, it is a Warfare Wednesday. We are at this half point at the show. Welcome back, or welcome for your first time. Beginning, middle, and end of the show, we always get to any chats, comments, subscriptions, ninjaginis, donations, whatever they might be, whatever we might have gotten over the course of our time loving life every morning here with you guys every morning, and never fearing death. Felipe Mullins says, my mouth looks nothing like that Pikachu. Like Pikachu, but Pikachu. He's referring to the picture in between screens? What are those called? Stingers? Slideshow. The slideshow during the waiting times. Says Felipe Mullins says, alien goblin mouth. In order to know that for sure, well, I guess we just have to have a good sense of self. So I guess I trust you, Felipe. Well, maybe it doesn't look anything like that picture. That picture has a bunch of lines coming out of it. Some colors, some text. If your tongue looked like that, you'd be in a video game. Good morning, Felipe. Thank you for coming through. As we are here on Padawan, always allowing ourselves to remind each other to shift our self-awareness on our body around, as it is never a bad thing to be feeling more of ourselves, truthful in this moment, here and now, where your body is and can be. There is no other moment in which your body is, and so we invite you to move your self-awareness around today with us here on Padawan. Simply to feel more truths of your body, to feel more integrated into the moment that we have here and now. Are we remembering that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front? Again, that is that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Say it with me, even if it's just in your head. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Again, even if it's just in your head, the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. No matter where you are, no matter whether you are hanging out with your friends, or no matter whether you are alone in your car, whether you are in an airplane right now listening to a VOD, whether you are underground in a submarine or underwater in a submarine, whether you're on a roller coaster, or whether you are just chilling and eating next to some birds. heck was that? It is a Warfare Wednesday. It is 6:10 a.m. You guys ever miss hanging out in hammocks? Hammocks are an interesting invention. There must have been dangerous animals wherever a hammock was invented. There must be dangerous animals on the floor. Warfare Wednesday, we are talking about vax versus no vax. We see a lot of vax versus no vax right now. Statistically, anti-vaxxers have experienced a larger pain in such and such in their lives. Statistically, vaxxers are more likely to avoid death in this way. Anti-vaxxers statistically are more likely to ruin your social event this way. And we get swept up in it. Swept up in it. As in, how many people have had vaxes in their lives? How many people generally have not been against vaxes in their lives, vaccines? Now, how many people are against the COVID vaccines? How many? How many people have had vaccines in their lives? Never been an issue up until now. And now with how many people are raising their hands, how many people are against the COVID vaccine mandates? They like to distract the word usage away from mandates to simply vax. Vaxxers versus anti-vax. However, isn't the true issue the mandation, the mandatoriness? Isn't the mandate, isn't the requirement the real issue? And so, if it's a mandate and people are simply, and the true war is between those who do not mind being mandated versus those who mind being mandated when it comes to injecting something into their body, does it not become an issue more familiar as an issue of more about consent? Does that not ring a bell? And so is the issue really, is the issue that the spirit of people that is really worried about, spirit not this Casper thing, but is in the spirit of their energy, of their mood, their emotions? Are what people really getting riled up about in their emotions, is it because they believe it's a vax versus anti-vax? Is it because they believe it's a people believe people should die from diseases versus those who believe people should survive? Is it a closer model to the truth? Are the spirits, as in are what people are getting riled up emotionally about, are they even aligned to be able to be understanding the same message? And so is there not an effort to make sure that we do not get on the same page in order to abuse? How might they use and abuse? Well, they might force everyone in their homes. Predictably so, only certain companies may outlast that kind of coercion. Forced change in lifestyle. Might be able to predict what kind of companies take your money now, right? That kind of hurts a hole in you now. as we are pretending that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out, and remembering that the tip of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth and leaving our swallowing muscles alone, we might observe our sense of self today. And we might talk more about this real war going down, as in the war to divide our spirits, as in the war to divide what causes us to be riled up emotionally. The war to divide us, not even based on emotion, but the war to divide us based on what gets us riled up. What is in our awareness. The division of what is in our awareness, what riles up us up emotionally, our spirits. We'll be right back to talk about the actual war going on, to divide us, our spirits, to divide what riles us up emotionally. We'll be right back. Are we remembering to let our weight be divided into those rainbow arches and not into your singular tailbone? I might notice how our body feels when we allow ourselves to submit to this design which we did not create but is there for us from the inside out to feel so good. This war out there to tear us apart. Why? Well, some people might have seemingly good motives. Some people might have possibly more nefarious or quote-unquote selfish motives. Some people might have some motives that might look philanthropic in order to divide, conquer, and to then influence. There might be a lot of benefit to having large influence over large swaths of people, right? To do your bidding. There might be some plus sides to that. There might be some plus sides should they not know that they're doing your bidding. There might be some plus sides to people believing they're living a completely normal life, but actually be living as slaves for another person's design. What then if that design is actually great, philanthropic, and people love that design? Then what then for this idea of slavery? Then what then of this idea of being slaves? Should we happen to agree that this would be a good idea for people somehow? Then what then becomes of the idea of slavery? Should all of those involved believe it is actually a good thing for them? Like they get all their needs met, like they get to go to college, like they get to get a family, like they get to get a job, like they get to feel like they have purpose, they get all their needs met. What then of this idea of slavery if this system was put into place? They might describe that as capitalism in some places. They might describe that as communism in other places. What is the real war going on then? What does freedom mean if people aren't happy? And what does slavery mean if they are happy? What is the real going on? What is the real war going on out there? What does it mean when people are free but not happy, but then want to become slaves and are happy? What is the real war? What do we actually care about? What does this freedom thing mean then? Is there perhaps another layer of freedom that we are just only now beginning to uncover? Is there more of a relationship with ourselves that we can become more and more clear and more direct and more strengthened and emboldened by? That no one can take away from us. A feeling closer and more intimate to us than sex even, but more powerful, more overwhelmingly powerful, more sustainable, less shameful, and more life-loving and less death-fearing than sex. What if this power... What if this relationship with ourselves existed, another layer of freedom that generates more happiness and more security than any outside force could ever possibly promise us? What is this battle for freedom? What is freedom when people are not happy? And what is slavery when people are ecstatic? What do these mean? What is the true relationship? What is this game that we're playing? What do we care about? Do we care about having riches? Do we care about being included? Is there a little of column C? In which do we care about simply enacting freedom, enacting freely within our means? Do we actually just desire freedom within our means? To achieve these needs. We all got some needs. We all got some needs. They might be abused by one person or the next, but we all got needs. Do we really care about this ultra freedom? Do we really care about this idea of slavery? Of being slaves to this commune or being slaves to this capitalism? Do people really feel like they are slaves to capitalism? Some people do. What is this being a slave to capitalism? Well, we all got needs. So as the war rages on out there, what is the real war going on? Vax versus no vax? Or is it those who feel like they are being abused for their needs versus those who feel like they are not? Abused for their needs. As those who are participating in the wonders of capitalism in the West feel that their needs are being abused, feels that they are having their liberties stripped away because their needs are being abused. Not their needs, their needs. They have needs and they feel that they're being abused. At the end of the day, they try to split us apart by pretending that it is not us simply feeling that our needs are being abused. Is it a war simply to just divide us and pretend to divide us on this imaginary idea that we are not simply just having our needs abused? Is there a war to abuse that in us and confuse us, to cause us to believe that we are all mad at different things when we are all actually mad at the same thing, in which we feel that our needs are being abused? Needs for survival, needs to fit in, needs to get a paycheck, needs to enjoy life before I die. Why do all of these needs matter on the outside so much? Because we are death-fearing in this world, and what do we do to fix that? You guessed it. To become life-loving by loving this body here right now, here in the moment, where it is right here, right now, by loving the feeling that we produce when we remember that there's a candle in front of our lips. To engage more wholly with our actual design. Right here and now. To feel so good by doing so, by simply engaging with the here and now and growing our relationship to be able to do so with what else? Our own body. This design that comes before you, yet is you. Why do all these needs in the outside world matter so much? Because we are trying to feel so good from the inside out. We are trying to overcome. We're trying to love this life of ours. Well, how can we love this life of ours when it feels like crap all the time? Well, it's gonna feel better one day. Just keep going. Really. Body doesn't know that. Body doesn't feel like that. Body just knows right now. It'll feel better one day. How do you love life when you don't feel good right now? How do we feel good right now? We feel good from the inside out. A feeling that cannot be taken away from you. A feeling gifted to you, by you, but it's not you. But it comes before you, this design of yours. We did not decide that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, yet here we are. We did not make the conscious decision to have the schematic say that there should be a candle feeling like it's in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. And to allow all those muscles that are engaged with this idea to be engaged and become out of the way of our breathing apparatus so that we can breathe better. We did not create that yet. When we become more acquainted with it, how does it feel for us? To grow a relationship, to love life all the time. Why? Because life would feel good all the time. Why would you not love something that feels good? To grow a relationship with our body, to love life all of the time so that we do not have to fear the death of having our needs from the outside world not met. We might not be abused by this world yet. Let's not have our needs abused. Let's meet our needs from the inside out. Let's have our design have us feel good all the time so we can love life because it simply feels good. Here and now. And just experience every moment and observe as observation seems to be just enough. Does the war out there seem more against vax versus no vax, or rather a war to divide us by pretending that we are mad about different things? Is it about vax or no vax? Or is it about just trying to make everybody believe that we are mad about different things at all? As in confusion. As in, aren't we all just concerned about having our needs abused? Let's not have our needs abused. Let's have our needs met right here and now. By pretending that there's a candle in front of our lips that you're trying to not put out in this simulation in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. By remembering that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. I want to thank you for joining us here today. We are reaching the end of the show. Remember that the beginning, middle, and at the end of the show, we will be getting to any chats, comments, subscriptions, donations, text-to-speeches, ninja-kinis, ice creams, or whatever they call them out there. So we want to thank you for coming through. Felipe Mullen says, actually, I think ants and other insects were one of the incentives for hammocks. Well, there you go. He continues, ants in Brazil are no joke. I believe that. I've seen some gnarly videos of some ants. I've seen some people take voluntary bites from them. I don't know why, but they do these things in the world, you know? But I believe that, and I'm glad that we're onto something. We got to do some hammock research. You know what, though? Hammocks, sometimes they're not comfortable to people, but I wonder if you remember that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front while you're on a hammock, and that there's a candle in front of your lips. I bet that it would feel pretty good. Because I used to hate hammocks. I'm going to try that again now that I have Pal Go On stuff in my head now. I got to try it. And we'll report back here. Thank you for letting us know, Felipe. That probably is it, right? You know? Eric Taylor says, good morning, this is your host, Herbie. Dang right. What up, Eric? Good morning. Shout out, Felipe. Shout out, Eric. Shout out everyone making this possible. Shout out for all the interest from friends and family alike. Shout out to my auntie Ludi. Shout out to Danny. Shout out. All the good family and friends keeping this chugging along. We got some movement happening. So as we discussed on last episode, there will be some large shifts, changing happenings with this show. My employment has happened. We are now basically doing a lot of work without trying to dox myself. But that's great because now, as we know, work creates more work. Work begets more great work. And so Pal Go On will be seeing some big shifts, different time slots. Who knows? Mornings, might be afternoons, might be night times, might be once a week, might be twice, might be 8 times a week. But there will be some large changes, but they all will be very good. A lot of these major changes might be happening due to us having more Pal Go On content, but not in the form of live streams, but in the form of repeatable guides that might be great for whenever you want to have some guided breathing or just revisit one of these concepts or something like that. Also some musics and sounds coming through. We have a lot more coming through. We might be having some sounds for like transitions. We might be doing some different background musics. It's been a good test run. This season 1 of Pal Go On or season 2 of Pal Go On or something like that have been well. We look forward to having us pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's all good, Eric. Yeah, keep it PG. But we'll see where Pal Go On goes. Maybe we'll have some night shows. Maybe there'll be some different kind of content, man. Who knows? No matter what happens, it will be all very exciting. We'll probably be having some activities and videos and stuff with Pal Go On that are more applied applied projects of these breathing, maybe some feedback. We'd love to hear some feedback on this on the candle stuff. Thank you guys so much for being here. And as promised, dang man, we're you know what? We're settling for good enough these days. You know why? Not because settling for good enough means you're settling, but because settling for good enough allows you to make progress. You know what I'm saying? Perfectionism oftentimes leads to stagnation. So as promised, we'll be growing along with Padawan. Padawan forever, ever. We'll be growing along with this theme song as well. So here we'll be saluting. Hope you have a fantastic day out there. Remember to feel it. Remember to pretend that there's a candle in front of not just your lips, but everybody's lips in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out. Even people behind you in line, you're perceiving that there's a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out. You're remembering that they're leaving the swallowing muscles alone. The people behind you, you're perceiving them that the tip of their tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Thank you guys for coming through. Thank you guys so much, whether you're from D-Live, Twitch, YouTube, whether you come from Discord, Twitter, TikTok, or a friend or family or Instagram. Thank you guys so much for coming through. Big love. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. We'll be growing along with this theme. So thank you so much for coming through, guys. Big love. Have a fantastic one out there. Yeah!